Hi, customization is a word that refers to two related activities. The first meaning is making something to order, making it to your own specification. And the second meaning, which is actually these days a much more common usage, is adapting something that already exists to suit your own particular purposes. These are the Chinese characters for the words 100 bastard chairs. And that's the name of a book put together by a photographer called Michael Wolff, who travelled around China and recorded all the different ways, or it gives 100 examples in the book, of the different ways in which people adapt existing objects to become something to sit on, or the way in which they make or repair existing chairs to continue with their useful life. And there are some very interesting examples of this kind of vernacular activity. It's really a universal human trait to adapt things and make do and fix things. Sometimes it's a case of doing this for survival, like these Indian building workers who are using these sewer pipes to live in while they actually install them. And sometimes it's done for reasons of self-expression, establishing your identity within a subculture or tribe, or something that actually declares your identity in a way which is not visible to other people, but is to the people in the group that you want to be close to. And we're also used to other ways of modifying our bodies through plastic surgery and so on. So all this kind of adapting process is something that we're all used to. We all do it in various ways, and it's becoming very familiar. What I want to do is look at how this affects the way things are made and give some examples of how this actually works. Now, the way we make things these days in advanced societies has changed. We started off making things by craft production, which in a way was really the first sort of customization, that you could have things made to your particular specification by an individual craftsman. We then moved from that period into through the various industrial revolutions into mass production. And we became very good at that. And mass production thrives on the basis of making large numbers of things which are identical. What's now changing, though, is the kind of technology we use for mass production can be used in different ways and can be adapted so that it's not necessarily the case of producing exactly the same thing every time. The activity of adapting existing products is something that we find all over the place. But maybe the example I want to pick up today is the one of car customizing, or pimping as it's known. So we're used to, over the last 50 years or so, all sorts of adaptations of cars and vehicles for all sorts of purposes. Sometimes it's to pursue particular sporting activities like drag racing, hot rodding and so on. Sometimes it's to express yourself within a particular subculture, within a particular group in society. So the group colludes to adapt cars. The lowriders in Southern California adapt cars in a particular kind of way. So they declare to other members of the group who they are and what they're about, and to the wider society as a whole. And there is a whole proliferation of different styles of car customizing and hot rodding that exist at the moment. This is one of my particular favourites within these subcultures are the rat rods. People make no attempt to make really shiny objects which go into custom shows, but instead all their cars are always a work in progress, never finished, usually rusty, and so on. But you can look around and find all sorts of different versions of car customizing. The next stage beyond mass production is mass customization. And this is really where we exploit the capability of mass production to make lots of different components rather than different objects, and look at ways in which those components can be combined in different ways. Every product, every object, whether it's a vehicle or anything else, is made up of a large number of different bits. Each of those bits can be changed for ones which perform differently or look differently, and so on. So we're able to specify exactly what we want from the factory rather than put up with a standard factory product. And the advent of new technology and computerization, digital imagery and so on, will enable us to do customizing on a much more personal, immediate level. So Converse trainers, you can specify the colors and styles of the different panels that make up the trainer, and when you've finished specifying it, then it'll be made to your specification somewhere else around the world and shipped to you. What I want to do now is look at an area where mass production and mass customization and customization really come together, and really use an example which is a kind of interesting one. Toyota is one of the biggest car companies in the world, but Toyota has a sub-brand called Scion, which is set up specifically to make and market cars to young people. And they produce currently 4 models, of which this is probably the most interesting one. The Scion XB is a little boxy van, sometimes characterized by mischievous people as looking like the box that it came in. But it has a lot of space for the size of the car. It's very tall, it's easy to get in and out of, and these is part of a class of vehicles that originated on the streets of Tokyo. Scion is interested in attracting the attention of particular groups who don't respond to conventional advertising. So they went about advertising the Scion in a kind of viral marketing way. That they set up websites, they set up blogs and mixtapes and all sorts of devices to get at edgy young urban males. That was their target group for this car. And they did this with a variety of different imagery in magazines and so on. And these are the kind of people that they were really aiming at. And in the mainstream publicity that they put out, the brochures for the car, they explore this to the utmost. And they also use the activity of mass customization to enable you to specify what kind of engine performance you want, what kind of sound system you want, different things, altering the wheels and the seats and so on. So you really can set this car up to be exactly the way you want it to be. And in addition to what the manufacturer does, the aftermarket, the large number of individual custom shops and so on will set up to produce components that will give you gull-wing doors or swivels, or produce special versions for disc jockeys and so on, with very elaborate sound systems in and so on. And all this was actually supported by the company. They were very active in helping individual customizers do this, and they promoted their activities at trade shows and so on. And to make sure that all the bases were covered, they also looked at the green possibilities. So one stream within the marketing was to look at ways in which you could make your XB green, up to and including a fully electric version. One of the outcomes of this process, though, was really kind of interesting when they started to look at who was actually buying the car. They found out that the average age of the purchasers of the Scion XB Mark I was around 40. But what was interesting was that group wasn't made up of people who were 40. It was made up of people who were around 20 and people who were around 50. The people who were around 20 were responding directly to the kind of viral marketing that Scion was doing, and responding as they were intended, and identified something which looked kind of funky, could be adapted to their purposes in all sorts of different ways, and was really ideal for them. But the other group were actually looking at it differently. They saw a car that had a lot of space, wasn't very expensive, was quite easy to get in and out of, and it had the added bonus that their grandchildren or children thought it was cool. So they didn't mind that it didn't look like a Detroit car. They actually gloried in the fact that it was different. It set them apart from the rest of their group, but it was actually quite a sensible response to car buying need as well. Scion went on to develop the XB Mark II, which was slower, which was faster, had a bigger engine, longer, heavier, and so on. And that actually managed to sell not so much to the young and old demographic, but actually sold solidly to middle-aged people. Bit of a missed opportunity there, I think, Toyota. Thank you.